She was meant to remain invisible, just another shadow in the base, unnoticed and unremarkable. But when enemy jets screamed across the sky, tearing apart everything familiar, the quiet woman everyone underestimated became the heartbeat of survival. And nothing in her life would ever be the same again. Before we dive into this incredible story, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Tales and Turns! Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We love hearing from our global community. The morning had started like any other at the remote military base, a place carved into the mountains where routine was law and visibility was danger. She moved through the corridors like a ghost, quiet and unnoticed, performing her tasks with precision, but never drawing attention. The men and women around her had long stopped seeing her as more than a face in a crowd. She didn't mind. Being underestimated had always been her advantage. But that morning, the stillness was shattered. The roar of engines ripped through the sky, a deafening announcement of impending disaster. Enemy jets sliced through the clouds with ruthless intent, their shadow falling like a dark omen over the base. Alarms screamed, echoing against the cold concrete walls. Panic spread like wildfire as soldiers scrambled to their stations. Amid the chaos, she remained calm, her mind calculating, observing, preparing. Soldiers shouted over the din, trying to coordinate defense, but confusion ruled. Communication lines were disrupted, and fear had tangled with adrenaline, making split-second decisions almost impossible. And yet, she saw the pattern in the chaos. She saw where the jets would strike first, which exits were compromised, and which routes offered a chance of survival for the base personnel. Her voice, quiet but firm, began to cut through the panic. Orders that no one expected her to give now carried weight, because there was method where others saw only madness. She moved through the base like a force of nature, guiding soldiers and civilians alike, ensuring the wounded were tended to and that defensive positions were manned. Her calm presence became a rallying point, and soon, those who had ignored her were following her lead without hesitation. Every decision she made was deliberate, every command precise. The once overlooked woman had transformed into a pillar of authority in the midst of terror. As the jets tore through the sky, dropping bombs with terrifying accuracy, she directed evacuation procedures, balancing fear and courage in equal measure. Each explosion threatened to bury them all, yet her determination never wavered. She found herself face to face with moments where hesitation could mean death, but she pressed forward, driven by a quiet resolve that had always defined her. Every soldier she guided to safety, every life she saved, chipped away at the disbelief of her comrades. The enemy pilots, expecting chaos, were met with resistance they hadn't anticipated. Small teams she had organized moved with precision, evading attacks and mounting countermeasures. The tide of fear began to shift, just slightly, as the base personnel realized that their salvation was being orchestrated by someone they had never respected, someone they had ignored for far too long. Her strategic mind became a beacon in the storm, and with each successful maneuver, admiration replaced doubt. Hours felt like days as the assault continued, but she remained tireless. Exhaustion gnawed at her body, yet she refused to falter. Every scream, every crash, every desperate plea strengthened her resolve. She became a symbol, not of power in the traditional sense, but of unyielding courage, the kind that thrives in anonymity and blossoms when it is needed most. Finally, as the last jet was driven away and silence returned to the ravaged base, she stood amid the ruins, her clothes torn, her hands bloodied, but her spirit unbroken. Soldiers and officers, many of whom had doubted her existence, now looked upon her with awe. They realized that the quiet woman, the one they had dismissed as invisible, had been the difference between life and death, between despair and hope. News of her bravery spread quickly, transforming her life overnight. She was no longer the background figure of the base, She had become a legend, her name whispered with reverence. Medals were offered, accolades delivered, but she cared little for recognition. What mattered to her was knowing that when the storm had hit, she had made a difference, and in the silence that followed the chaos, she had found her true strength. From that day forward, the woman who had once been unseen embraced a new role, not for glory, but for purpose. She became a mentor, a strategist, a leader. Her story, born from fear and forged in fire, inspired everyone who heard it. And as she walked through the halls of the rebuilt base, no one dared underestimate her again. Her life had been changed forever, not by chance, but by courage, resilience, and the unwavering determination to act when it mattered most.